Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
This morning, our Cultural Arts Committee is very happy to bring to you guys this creative and thought-provoking group called the Papperhand Puppet Intervention.
Good morning.
We really just want to get kids excited about what we are excited about in this art form, which is that puppetry brings together all of these different art forms. We get to dance and make music. We get to sculpt and paint.
I think it's a beautiful thing, especially for a small kid to grow up sort of feeling inside or believing in this kind of magic that's out there.
That's a huge part of what we're in this for, is to inspire people to just engage with the creative process.
We can't really fully rehearse the show unless we have a quorum of volunteers. Well, that's the paper hand part, is that it takes so many different hands to make what we do. Really, there are dozens of folks every year who come out, help us paper mache and paint and just lend their hands, because what we do is kind of a grand scale sort of an art.
Well, the reason we came up with intervention as part of our name is that we wanted our work be something that was like an awakening or a sort of a jolt. We've both been a part of many different types of protest movements.
We came to this intersection where there were a bunch of people that had locked their arms together, and the police were pepper spraying in their eyes. And the cops said, okay, we're going to do it again in 10 minutes. We sort of rolled this giant moving festival up behind it. Like, what are you going to do to a beautiful puppet of liberation? Are you going to topple it over? Are you going to arrest a clown? Are you going to tackle a belly dancer? You know, you saw the cops, some of them were starting to cry, and they couldn't deal with what they were being asked to do. It diffused the sort of violent nature of what was going on.
I mean, there's a place for anger, but the way that we're approaching it is just through this sort of artistic, creative process.
And we're getting close. We'd just been living in San Francisco, and I said, well, maybe I'll come back to North Carolina and do a puppet show for the Haw River Festival. Why don't you guys come alive and start to swim? And Donovan was living somewhere else. I said, come on down, help me make it. Like, it's not coming together.
You guys are going to be grabbing the cloth slowly.
That was a big first experience that took us into this idea that making puppet shows could be something that, you know, we could focus on. It all starts from Jan and I just talking.
So say this is the stage.
We sit around and sketch in our sketchbooks.
Those are the three different options.
Share ideas and
then they all just take off in different directions.
And it just slowly gets built up. Our show this year is called I Am an Insect. We're focusing all on things that are tiny and making them large. So insects and bugs and spiders. For Jan and I think that looking at things and paying attention to the small and the details and the ordinary is a pathway towards human development.
We get inspired a lot by what we see in the natural world. Like just funny people walking down the street that we go, God, that person looks like a puppet already. I'm going to make somebody that looks like that.
Well, back here is where we keep a lot of our puppets in storage. This is a boar from several years ago that we made. These were the hands of John Henry and his big hammer. When he had his full costume on, you know, John Henry would get both of his hammers going and start doing his big swinging. And this is from last year, the show we did called A Shoe for Your Foot. And this here is one of this year's characters. It's a grasshopper.
Often we make these kind of torture machines that are, usually you can see about this much. You can't breathe very well, extremely hot.
Sweating and staples poking you in the head.
You just have to memorize where you're supposed to move. And every once in a while you get little cues of like, okay, I think that's the edge of the stage. And, oh, there's the audience, so I'm facing in the wrong direction or whatever. A puppet without any kind of a sound can appear lifeless. Not to say that silence isn't one of the sounds. Silence can be the best sound sometimes.
In order for them to come to life, they need something that sort of stirs the human emotions or thoughts. Often it's the music that creates that thread of connectivity.
The musicians that we have on the show are incredible. They're sort of magic makers.
We do work with the musicians to try and help them understand our vision. Ultimately, the music they create is another sort of organism that holds the whole thing together.
They put all these nuances and all these little touches.
We're gonna do these little flutters. Yeah, like, that's nice. It takes people on a bit of an emotional journey.
They make our beautiful puppets poignant. We have kids who have come to a show that have never sat still in their lives, at least that's what their parents tell us, and they sit sort of wrapped and engaged watching the thing. We have folks that have come down after a show and they're crying and they were so moved by something that happened.
For the next couple days, they're thinking about images and they're thinking about some of the things that they saw. And there's a lot to talk about, and that's what we like.
Your face is covered too much, just break through with your hand, break through with your finger.
We kind of look at the show as given birth to because we have to do a lot of letting go. It's kind of like an analogy to parenting. It's all just, narrowing into this point where opening night happens and it just has to,
whoosh.
It becomes its own entity. Because there's 20 some odd people, all of their inputs on any given night is creating this fabric, this weave. There's really not any good words to describe it except for collaborative and collective and organic. And it hopefully just blossoms into something that people can really enjoy.
I've always wanted to be a puppeteer, and now that I can call myself one, I feel very satisfied about that.
Just been sort of like an upward, slow swirl of us finding ourselves as artists and what our vision is. I'm really quite happy, but at the same time, it is a serious amount of work that is quite hard sometimes.
Going on, so I don't want to do that anymore. It's a real challenge to take what you love, that you dream about doing creatively, and doing it all the time for your living. That's the hardest thing about it for me, is trying to keep inspired. So it's not just, oh, here we are making another puppet, but it's, how beautiful is this going to be?
The reason that we've kept going is just the overwhelming amount of feedback we've gotten from the community and people cheering us on, saying, come on, keep it going, we want to see more.
Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.